The Age newspaper, the Sydney Morning Herald and the ABC's Four Corners program have been researching human trafficking and sex slavery in Australia. Now, one of the things that we've found is that brothels that are licensed by either state governments or local councils in New South Wales or Victoria are in fact linked to organised crime syndicates. Police hold information, often that's aired in court cases, about these brothels. For some reason, they retain their licences. Now, I'm going to take you on a drive throughout Melbourne, and I'm going to show you some of these brothels that have been linked to organised crime. The brothel behind me is now under new management. But back in 2009, when it was under the old management, it was the subject of two different police investigations. The first was back in 2009. It was done by the Victoria Police. It was into the death of a young Melbourne man, Abraham Papo. Abraham had come here in February 2009 to help a woman he was seeing, his girlfriend or lover. She was also a Korean prostitute. Abraham was worried about her welfare. He thought she might have been being abused or held by people linked to the old managers of this brothel. He was killed outside the brothel after a confrontation with a man who worked inside. The subsequent investigation into the old managers of this brothel involved the Australian Federal Police in allegations of sexual slavery and human trafficking. Now, the AFP alleged that in around mid-2009, the old managers of this brothel had women inside working as sex slaves. Those allegations have been aired recently in a Melbourne court. So where did the old managers of this brothel go? Well, they're at a new brothel. It's licensed by the state government and it's in Richmond. Let's check it out. The old managers from the brothel in South Melbourne, the brothel that was implicated in human trafficking and sexual slavery in 2009, and they moved their operations here to the Candy Club in Richmond. The key woman involved here, her name is Lynn Gow. Now, she was running the old brothel when it was allegedly involved in these very serious crimes. In the middle of last year, the state government gave Lynn Gow a licence to move her operation to the Candy Club. The question that poses is, how can a person who's been allegedly implicated in court cases and in police files in some very serious crimes be allowed to run a brothel in this state? One of the real problems for brothel regulators, be they in Victoria or in New South Wales, is that those who are truly behind the brothel aren't the people with their names on the paperwork. So if an organised crime syndicate wants to become involved in the brothel industry or take over a massage parlour, they'll get a front company or a front person with no criminal record, a clean skin, to put their name on the paperwork. Now, the brothel right here, it's called 234, and it's also licensed by the state government. We've dug up court documents from last year which allege that the man who owns the building that houses this brothel is alleged by police to be linked to Russian organised crime, and also a person who specialises in introducing Russian prostitutes to brothels. We're in Clifton Hill now in inner Melbourne, and this place over the road here, it's a shop front. On the front there's a sign that says comfortable relaxation 7 days. It's masquerading as a massage provider. It's in fact an illegal brothel. It's one of dozens of illegal brothels around Melbourne. These places advertise in local papers as massage providers. The police often know they're in fact brothels. The local councils often know they're in fact brothels. But a lot of the time nobody does anything about it. They run under the noses of authorities providing prostitution services despite the fact that it's against the law. The real issue raised by the brothels I'm showing you is about regulation and oversight. It's an issue that is big both in Victoria and New South Wales and elsewhere in Australia. Brothel regulators, the authorities in charge of licensing, oversighting, keeping an eye on the brothels all across the country, aren't acting on information that's held by police that suggests that the brothels that they're oversighting may be involved in serious criminality. If the brothel regulation system, be it in Victoria or New South Wales, is going to work properly, then authorities have to be able to act on information that is held by agencies like the AFP or the Victoria Police or the New South Wales Police that says that Mr. X or Mr. Y that's running a brothel is also involved in organised crime. If that's the case, and if it can be shown to a standard that's acceptable that that's happening, that person should not be allowed to have anything to do with the sex industry. This is the last brothel I'm going to show you. It's in Heidelberg in Melbourne's north. This brothel's come up in 2 different police investigations. The first investigation is by the Victoria Police. It's a recent probe and it involves allegations of bribery. The second investigation involves the Australian Federal Police and allegations of human trafficking and sex slavery. It's alleged that a crime syndicate involved in the trafficking of women from Asia and the imprisoning of women in brothels sent at least one woman to work as a sex slave in this brothel here. If brothel regulators are to be taken seriously, they must assess information held by police on brothels like this one. They must make the call about whether brothels like this should be allowed to remain open.